Have you ever noticed how some of the most dangerous financial decisions of your life begin with a phrase that sounds harmless, almost comforting? Don't worry, it fits your budget. Has that phrase ever been said to you? Maybe inside a car dealership, maybe with a confident smile from the salesperson, maybe when you were tired, excited, or feeling like you finally deserved something better. And that's exactly where the problem begins. Because when someone says the payment is low, your brain relaxes. The tension disappears, and the most important question is no longer asked. If it fits your budget, why do so many people regret it later? Imagine the scene. You go in just to take a look. You weren't decided. It wasn't urgent. But then the right car appears, the right pitch, the perfect argument. The salesperson doesn't talk about the total price, doesn't talk about the interest, doesn't talk about how long that decision will affect your life. They talk about the monthly payment. Small number, almost appealing. An amount that seems manageable, that doesn't scare you, that doesn't hurt. And in that instant, your brain makes a dangerous calculation. I can afford that. Have you ever been through this? This is the invisible scam of the low monthly payment. It's not an illegal scam. It's not a trick hidden in the fine print of the contract. It's a psychological, emotional, and behavioral scam. It works because it exploits exactly how we make consumer decisions. When we only look at the monthly payment, we ignore the total cost of the car, the impact on the monthly budget, the risk of unforeseen events, and the long-term effect of that choice. The debt seems light at first, but it grows silently over time. And the most dangerous thing is that all this happens while you feel like you're being responsible. After all, you didn't buy something expensive outright. You paid in installments. You planned it. You did what everyone else does. But few people realize that this model was designed to make you commit for years to something that loses value every day while your money loses its freedom. What you're about to discover may surprise you. A low monthly payment creates a false sense of financial control. It makes you believe you're in control of the situation, when in reality, it's the debt that starts dictating your choices. Little by little, the budget gets tighter, dreams become more distant, and that decision that seemed small starts to weigh heavily. But almost no one connects the problem to its origin. Almost no one goes back to the moment of the phrase, "It fits in my budget." Stick with me until the end, because understanding this mechanism completely changes how you look at any car financing. There's a simple rule, ignored by most, that separates those who use money as a tool from those who become prisoners of the installments. And before I show you how it works, it's essential that you clearly see exactly where this scam begins and why. It's so difficult to spot when it happens. And as you recognize yourself in this story, perhaps remembering a specific conversation, a contract signed too quickly, or even a strange feeling that arose months later, I want to extend a simple invitation to you, almost as a continuation of this conversation we're having here. If this topic resonates with you, if at any point you thought, "This has happened to me," or "This almost happened," leave a comment below. You don't need to explain everything. Sometimes a single sentence carries a lot of weight. Your experience can help someone who is about to fall into the exact same trap. When you comment, you're not just talking to me. You're creating a space where other people realize they're not alone, that this mistake isn't individual, that this emotional blow from the lower income bracket affects many good, hardworking, responsible people. And that transforms the video into something bigger than just information. If this content is helping you see your consumption decisions more clearly, liking the video is a simple way of saying, keep going. That's what shows the algorithm that this type of conversation needs to reach more people who still believe that everything can be solved by only looking at the lower income bracket. And if you feel that this type of content represents you, that it talks about real decisions, common mistakes, and financial education without judgment, subscribing to the channel is like saying you want to follow this journey with me. This channel only grows because there are people on the other side who get involved, who participate, who share, who feel. Your participation here is what makes this message reach more people before they sign up for something that will tie them down for years of their lives. Because understanding the low installment scam is just the beginning. From here, the way you look at any financing changes, and that's exactly what we're going to delve into now. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because understanding the low installment scam requires looking at something almost no one likes to face: the way our own brain decides. And here it's important to make something very clear from the start. This has nothing to do with a lack of intelligence, education, or willpower. It has to do with human behavior, with emotion, with how we've been conditioned to choose. When you see a small installment, your brain isn't calculating interest, total term, or long-term impact. It's seeking immediate relief. It wants to reduce the pain of the decision now. That's why the focus goes straight to the monthly amount. The installment acts as an emotional anesthetic. It diminishes fear, reduces tension, and creates the feeling that everything is under control. At that moment, the total cost becomes a distant, almost abstract detail, something the brain pushes aside for later. There's also the issue of immediate reward. A car isn't just a means of transportation. It represents achievement, status, validation, a change of phase, and the brain loves quick rewards. It prefers pleasure now to a greater benefit in the future. That's why financial decisions related to consumption are often made in the realm of emotion, not logic. The low installment opens the door to this reward without requiring an immediate visible sacrifice, at least not now. And there's another powerful factor at work behind the scenes: social pressure. You look around and see people who look like you driving cars that seem out of their financial reach. This creates a dangerous normalization. If everyone does it, then it must be okay. If it's common, then it can't be wrong. The brain uses this mental shortcut to justify the decision, even without analyzing the hidden truth behind it. The problem is that the fact that it's common doesn't make it healthy. Another point that almost no one realizes is how language shapes the decision. When someone says, "This installment fits in your budget," the word budget sounds intimate, close, personal. It brings the decision into the realm of everyday life, not planning. You don't think about the impact of this choice on your financial journey, your long-term transformation, or the decisions you will stop making because of this debt. You only think about whether that amount fits through your monthly budget today. All of this creates a scenario where the trap doesn't seem like a trap. It seems like maturity. It seems like responsibility. It seems like progress. And when the consequences appear, months or years later, the brain does something even crueler. It transforms it into guilt. The person thinks they made a mistake alone, that they were careless, that they failed. But the truth is that the system was designed precisely to activate these emotional triggers, this distorted logic, this narrow focus on the individual. When you understand this, something changes. Guilt begins to give way to awareness. Frustration starts to turn into learning, and the decision ceases to be just about a car and becomes about mindset, impact, and freedom. Because from the moment you see how this game works, it becomes impossible not to want to see what exists beyond the installment payment, beyond the emotion, beyond the easy promise. Comment below. This makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because after understanding how the brain pushes us toward bad decisions, an inevitable question arises. Is there a simple way to protect yourself from all of this? Is there a rule that acts as an emotional brake, a rational filter, something that gives you back control amidst all this noise? And that's exactly where the 4-20-10 rule comes in. Not as a magic formula, but as an antidote against the low-paying installment trap. This rule is straightforward precisely because it was created to address decisions that, in practice, almost never are. It establishes 3 clear limits that completely change how you view a car, even before thinking about the payment. The first is the down payment. At least 20% of the car's value must be paid up front. This immediately eliminates many impulsive choices. When you need to put real money on the table, the decision ceases to be abstract and begins to carry weight. Emotion diminishes. Awareness increases. The second point is the term. Financing cannot exceed 4 years. This detail seems small, but it changes everything. Long. Terms are the perfect hiding place for the hidden truth about interest rates. The longer the term, the easier it is to mask the real cost and the further away the pain of the decision becomes. Limiting the term forces the car to fit your financial reality, not the other way around. If it doesn't fit within 4 years, perhaps it's not the right car for that stage of your journey. The third point is the most ignored and perhaps the most powerful. The installment cannot exceed 10% of your monthly income. Here we're not talking about making do or tightening the belt. We're talking about impact. A car that consumes more than that starts to steal space from other areas of your life without you even realizing it. It affects future choices, reduces safety margins, and transforms small unforeseen events into big problems. When you apply the 4-20-10 rule, something interesting happens behind the scenes of the decision. The question stops being, what installment fits in my budget? And becomes, which car makes sense for my current financial mindset? This doesn't hinder dreams. On the contrary, it protects their future. It prevents an achievement today from becoming a silent burden tomorrow. Consider two simple scenarios. In the first, someone chooses a car based on design, status, and the promise of low monthly payments. In the second, someone starts with the bare minimum and only then looks at the other options. The first person feels euphoria at the beginning and pressure later. The second might feel frustration at first, but gains peace of mind over time. This difference defines entire journeys, not just isolated purchases. The 20-4-10 rule isn't about denying desires. It's about aligning decisions with a broader vision of transformation, maturity, and freedom. It restores clarity to an environment designed to confuse. And when you start to see the car as part of a financial journey and not as an immediate trophy, something inside you begins to change. The decision becomes slower, more conscious, more your own. Comment below. I'm on this journey too. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because understanding the 4-20-10 rule also requires the courage to face the other side of the story. What really happens when it's ignored? Not in theory, not in the first month, but over time, behind the scenes of real life. This is where many people begin to feel a weight that they don't know exactly where it comes from. But that affects everything. At first, almost nothing seems wrong. The payment is due every month, the car is there in the garage, there's even a certain pride in the achievement. But silently, time begins to work against you. The car loses value every day, but the debt remains practically intact. You pay, and the feeling of progress doesn't appear. On the contrary, a strange feeling arises of always running, but never arriving. As the months go by, the budget begins to shrink. Small adjustments become routine. One plan is postponed, then another. Trips are put off, investments never begin, emergency funds are never built. Money starts to have a fixed purpose, even before it arrives. And when an unforeseen event occurs, a health problem, a major maintenance issue, an unexpected change, fear sets in. Because there is no margin, there is no breathing room. Everything has already been compromised by decisions made long ago. And the hardest part is the emotional feeling that sets in. A constant tiredness, an invisible pressure, the feeling of working to uphold old choices. It's as if the past is collecting rent every month. This generates stress, irritation, internal conflicts, and even guilt. Many people feel that something has gotten out of control, but they can't pinpoint the exact moment it happened. The hidden truth is that, almost always, it all started with something seemingly harmless. Ignoring this rule also affects something deeper, your mindset. When a large portion of your income is tied up in a long-term commitment, your decisions become defensive. You start choosing out of fear, not opportunity. The financial journey ceases to be about growth and transformation and becomes about survival. Every choice is filtered by the question, can I keep everything as it is? And this limits possibilities that you don't even realize you're missing out on. Another rarely discussed impact is the emotional one. Freedom slowly slips away. Silently, you avoid change. You avoid positive risks. You even avoid dreaming big because you know there's an anchor pulling you back. The car, which should make life easier, becomes a constant reminder that poorly structured decisions have long-lasting effects. It's not about the car's value, it's about the space it occupies in your mind and in your choices. When you begin to see this scenario clearly, something changes inside. The reflection ceases to be merely financial and becomes personal. You start connecting the dots, reviewing decisions, and noticing patterns. And it is at this moment that a powerful question arises, opening space for new revelations and a real change of trajectory. Comment below. This makes sense to me. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject because after seeing the consequences of ignoring the rule, something emerges that many people don't expect to feel. Hope. Not that vague, distant hope, but a real feeling that there is a better way to decide. The 4-20-10 rule wasn't created to prevent you from buying a car, nor to put you in a position of permanent scarcity. It exists to give back something that low installments usually take away without warning: the power of choice. When you start using this rule as a filter, the decision ceases to be an impulse and becomes a conscious process. You no longer enter a dealership looking for approval or immediate relief. You enter with criteria, and criteria change everything. They remove the emotional weight from the moment and place the decision in the right place, within your financial journey. This reduces anxiety, lessens the rush, and brings a sense of control that doesn't depend on any promise. Buying consciously doesn't mean giving up pleasure or achievement. It means aligning your desires with the reality of your current situation. It means understanding that peace of mind is also a form of wealth. When your payments respect your limits, the car ceases to be a constant source of worry and becomes simply a tool. It doesn't invade your thoughts, doesn't pressure your future choices, and doesn't turn unforeseen events into crises. There's a silent transformation that happens when you internalize this logic. Your mindset changes. You begin to realize that financial freedom doesn't come from giant leaps, but from well-positioned decisions. You start to look to the future with more clarity because you know that your choices today aren't sabotaging your plans for tomorrow. The impact of this goes far beyond the car. It appears in other decisions, in other contracts, in other promises that previously seemed irresistible. The hidden truth is that those who understand the 4-20-10 rule never see a payment plan the same way again. The automatic question stops being, "How much is it per month?" and becomes, "Does this make sense for my life?" This simple shift changes everything. It separates those who react from those who decide, those who accept from those who choose, those who spend their time, putting out fires from those who build calmly. And the most liberating thing is realizing that this clarity doesn't come with guilt. It comes with maturity. It's not about making fewer mistakes to punish yourself later. It's about learning to make better decisions to live more lightly, less budget strain, less fear of unforeseen events, more space to invest, to plan, to breathe. The car ceases to be a symbol of pressure and begins to occupy the right space in your life. When you reach this point, something reorganizes itself internally. Decisions become slower, more conscious, more aligned with who you want to become. And it is precisely in this place that new choices begin to emerge. Not from impulse, but from the clarity that transforms the entire financial journey. Comment below, "I'm on this journey too." If you've made it this far, it's because this conversation resonated with you in some way. It wasn't just about cars, or just about installments. It was about decisions, mindset, and the kind of future we build without realizing it, choice by choice. If this message resonated with you, if at any point it seemed like I was describing something from your own journey, consider subscribing to the channel. This space exists precisely to delve deeper into this kind of practical reflection, without judgment, with clarity and real-world application. And if you want to leave a sign that you were with me until the end, write it here in the comments. This message was for me. This creates a silent connection with those who watched, showing that you didn't just automatically consume this content. A like also helps more than it seems. It's a simple way of saying that this conversation was worth the time, and that it can reach more people who are still trapped in the same pitfalls. There's a video over here that perfectly complements this topic, delves even deeper into this decision-making logic, and ties together some important pieces of this puzzle. Click there and continue watching